It's great to see you this morning. When we said you were going to be here on the sofa, I think both of us were inundated with messages from people saying, I hope you're doing all right. Are you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, you mentioned there's so many times in the rehabs that people forget, you know, I've been there for Red Bull, I've been for Calpol, I've been for no reason sometimes, you know. I think I've only been in rehab really seriously 3 times for the drink side of it, you know.
When was the last time that you were in rehab?
But 3 years ago. That was in Cottonwood when I passed away, apparently. You know, I thought that would be enough, you know. And then some people get it quite early and get this addiction underhand, and sometimes I feel a bit. But you know, in Boscombe or Bournemouth where I live, and you know, a lot of the people who've had this addiction are allowed to get on with it. I'm never allowed to get on with my illness I have, you know. I'm getting followed all the time by the press, and the lies that come out. I mean, the Sunday Mirror last year in court admitted to hacking my phone for 15 years. And admitted to doing 22 stories that were lies. And unfortunately, a lot of people believe what they read in our country.
Paul, let me ask you about, you know, I did you for my life story show, and that was 4 years ago now. And, you know, you've been through a hell of a lot then. You've been through a lot more since. But I've got to say, looking at you now, you're looking good, Nick.
Yeah, it's amazing what a bit of Botox can do for you. No, I sit at the apartment when I'm staying, and the workmen are working around there and saying, oh, Paul, be careful, there's 2 guys waiting in the car with loads of lenses. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to find. There's nothing worse when you're trying to just relax and enjoy yourself. I enjoyed living in Bournemouth. I mean, you know, I popped into the Providence Project, the treatment centre I was in before I met you. I mean, I was 3 years sober there, you know, and I felt great. And then, you know, and if I pop in and the press follows, they see I'm going back in rehab.
When was the last time you had a drink?
11 months ago. And I had a 2-day blip, and I just let things get on top of it.
So that incident the son had was just a momentary...
Day and a half, that was it.
In 11 months?
Yeah.
But sorry, just, you say you last had a drink 11 months ago. When was that photograph taken?
3 weeks ago.
But that was a 2-day.
Been drinking?
2 days, aye. When I have this obsession to drink, it gets really too much for us. And then I think if I just have a drink and get out of the way, and then by that time I'm in a blackout and I forget what's happening, you know. And I only when I get reminded and see things like that, and I don't realise when I'm actually in it, you know. But I mean, the Providence Project, Paul who owns it, and Darryl and that, and everyone there, the support I've got from it is fantastic. And sometimes I feel embarrassed getting the support because, you know, there's people unfortunate that live on the streets of my illness, you know, and they don't really get the support. So sometimes I go, and to help myself is I go and help another person, you know. Every day I try and, like, do 3 good deeds, and if it's giving someone a fiver, a pack of cigarettes, you know, even a little sandwich.
You've always been, Paul, a very generous guy. I remember when I was running the Mirror and I rang you or your agent and said, could you contribute? It was the Royal British Legion 50th anniversary, I think. Next day, I got a personal cheque from you for £500 sent from the England training camp. And you had done that yourself. You've always had a heart of gold. You've always been incredibly generous. A lot of people compare you to George Best.
He's passed away, I'm not. I'm
right, but George Best never really wanted to be helped. The difference, it seems to me, with you is you're desperate to be helped.
I am.
You don't want to live like this, right?
I mean, Terry and Frida who work for us and that, and, you know, they've been fantastic over the years regards work and that. But unfortunately, some of the people that want to give us work read some of the papers, which it's not true, you know, and I have to put up with that, and I lose work through it. And then eventually I let things get on top. Instead of going into the Providence and speaking to Paul and Darryl, I think, no, I'll leave it, I'll be all right.
How are the public with you?
Brilliant, you know, not everybody in the world or this country are going to like us, but I'm sure the other 99% are okay.
Well,
to those that, Paul, who... It's an important point. To those of them that see the headlines that come up occasionally about you and see that you've fallen off, and they don't understand that in that 11-month period, that might be the only time you've fallen off, right? And it's a battle that you lead. To those people who think, well, no one should bother with him, he can't help himself. You hear that. What do you say to those people?
Well, you know, 7 years I lived in Bournemouth, and probably just nearly 6.5 years I've been sober. So it's only these blips. And if I'm getting followed about all the time, eventually something's going to come out. Like they keep on showing that picture from 3 years ago, which is not very nice, and people think that's me. And when I actually go out and say, oh, you're different. Like the other week, it was so funny. I was rolling up the street, and this woman looked at us and nearly fainted. And I said, well, are you all right? She went, oh, it's in the papers, you're dead. I went, oh. And then it's a funny thing, I get text, Gaza, are you dead? Well, it's like,
well, you're definitely not.
What do you reply?
Well, yeah,
what do you say?
I'm on my way. And then I pop in the office.